Hello, welcome to Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Caw. I'm delighted to be joined by the dream team, the Hotline dream team, the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
You say that to all the boys, Daniel.
We're also joined by Record Sport's Scott McDermott. Scott, how's it going?
I'm okay, Daniel. How are you?
I'm good. The fans have been up in arms, Keith. Up in arms like Frankenstein, wanting Scott back.
I've been up in arms wanting Scott back for no other reason than chasing down every managerial rabbit hole that's been going over the last 40 hours while he's been sat back. Where have you been, wee man? What, are we enjoying yourself someplace?
No,
Taking it easy, relaxing?
A couple of days off in October week with the kids, Jacko. I was playing foot golf yesterday, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, eh? Any good?
I was all right. Better than the Wains.
I was going to say, were they using you as the ball?
Listen, that's out of order. I wouldn't have a Hotline college sport like that.
Daniel, he said he wanted me on because he's been carrying this show for the last couple. I thought it was a terrible indictment of you.
Scott, should I just remove him for this? We'll just take him out. I think the best place for us to start, guys, is, as you alluded to, Keith, Rangers, and we've got so many comments coming in already on the Rangers situation. If you're watching, you want to let us know your thoughts, your feelings on who should be the next Rangers manager, please do so. But I mean, the stuff that when I logged on today, Keith, Steven Gerrard had returned to being
it's crazy. It's gone crazy.
I don't know what's going to happen.
It's a repeat, isn't it, Scott, of everything that went on over the summer? Mad stuff getting thrown about. So let's start with that. We can confirm that there is no return to the table from Steven Gerrard. There's been 2 or 3 suggestions over the last few days that they're back at the table and it's all back on. I think there's even a suggestion today that in order to make this happen, a decision had been taken to bullet Kevin Thelwell from his position as sporting director. And as much as I think that would be a very good idea, that's not part of the agenda currently with the Rangers board. Kevin Thelwell's still there. Steven Gerrard is still back in Bahrain, and never the twain shall meet as far as we're concerned right now. But where we do have a little bit of interesting breaking news for the Rangers supporters out there, Dan, is that I believe things are moving quickly now with Muscat. He's through the interview stage, is over for him, and I think it's moved on. It's cranked up a level into proper contractual negotiations, and I think that's the clearest indicator yet that Rangers have selected him as the preferred candidate. And barring some sort of late unexpected collapse, you would think that one is now edging really into the really close zone now. Danny Rowell has been put on hold, but is still there on standby effectively. Still in contention, and I think they would probably have to explore that avenue again if something wasn't to get over the line with Kevin Muscat. But it looks, to all intents and purposes, I would expect Rangers to be in a position over the next 24 hours, perhaps as soon as that. Well, as soon as that. It's not really as soon as that, is it? This has been a long, drawn-out process again. But I think we're into the end game now, and it looks more and more certain to me that Kevin Muscat will emerge as the victorious candidate from this. Now, whether or not that means that he's able to get over here, in the coming days, probably unlikely because of the situation that he's got with Shanghai Port, and they're contesting at the top end of the table for the Chinese Super League. That there is no clarity on what the starting date would look like, or whether he'd be prepared to leave. What we have heard from Asia today is that Shanghai Port have been made aware of the Rangers' interest in the last 24 hours and have actually begun the process of selecting, Kevin Muscat's replacement. So where they've got an ability to see round corners and do a bit of forward succession planning.
That'll never catch you on, Jack.
It wouldn't surprise you if they actually make the appointment of their new manager before Rangers have confirmed Kevin Muscat.
That would be fun.
But that, so it is all pointing towards it's really getting into the closing stages, the final furlong here. Although this being Rangers expect the unexpected, we've learnt that over the period as well.
Well, in the comments, I mean, they are coming in. Please get involved in the conversation. Scott David says, "Who's taking charge of the game on Saturday then? Anyone know?"
Well, that is part of it. Scott, I'll say what I know on this, and then you can, obviously weigh in. From my understanding, what we've written, what we wrote this time last night, is that Neil McCann had been identified previously by Kevin Muscat as the guy he wanted to assist him, be his right-hand man at Rangers if he had been successful 2 years ago when he was up against Philippe Clement and Frank Lampard for the job. Obviously, I think wrongly, Rangers went with Clement. I think they should have gone with Muscat at that time. But that's like a kind of secret agreement from 2 years ago, which stands strong to this day. If Kevin Muscat gets it, Neil McCann will come in, probably as his assistant boss. And that means there is this opportunity of a sort of temporary fix to the situation, that if this was concluded within the next day, then I think Neil McCann has already been primed and is aware that he could step into the dugout on Saturday for the visit of Dundee United. Failing an agreement, then as things stands, it's the under-19s coach, Stevie Smith. And if the Rangers board don't realise how that will go down with their own supporters, then they're in for a shock when they turn up at Ibrox at the weekend. Scott?
No, certainly that was the line today, like the kind of official line, if you like, for the club, that as much as clearly this is it's a priority to try and get a manager in place before the weekend. That was the priority when the international break started. And now here we are a few days before, and they're still kind of scrambling about trying to get it done. But the official line is, look, they're on it. They want to get something done before the weekend. But if they can't get something in place, they do seem fairly comfortable with the fact that Stephen Smith would take the team for Saturday. He's obviously been taking training this week alongside Brian Gilmer, who's obviously in there as well. I think I'm right in saying, is it Rhys Owen, who was there under Russell Martin, fitness guy? I think he's still there, along with the goalie coach, working with the players. So, look, my gut feeling is, I agree with Jack. I mean, I tend to think they'll probably try and get this Muscat deal done, therefore have Neil McCann in place for Saturday, because with all due respect to Stevie Smith, I don't think that would be an ideal situation for the club to get into a really important game at Ibrox with one of the youth coaches in charge. However, the way this is going, this kind of saga at Rangers, it wouldn't surprise you too much if they end up in that situation. They don't get this over the line before the weekend. And I think that would be I don't know what Jacko thinks, but I think if they've not got this done by the weekend, it's a kind of damning indictment of the whole process. I mean, we spoke before Russell Martin had even left the job, that the role of the sporting director and the role of the club was to go and they should have had guys lined up already. Talk about seeing round corners, and everyone could see Russell Martin was coming towards the end weeks and weeks ago. So it doesn't feel like they were prepared for this, which is inexplicable, really, given the circumstances. Because since Russell Martin's gone, they've obviously been in London speaking to just about every head coach going. Obviously, Gerrard was the prime candidate. We know they spoke to Graham Potter. We know they spoke to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Gary O'Neill, others, and they've still not come to a conclusion. And the left, obviously, looks like the two remaining candidates, Danny Rowe and Kevin Muscat. And even then, it looks doubtful as to whether they're going to have it done by the weekend. And even if they do, and it is Muscat, he can't become. He might not be able to become manager for the next 3 or 4 weeks. So it's not been great, Daniel. Aye, it's not been great. In the next couple of days, you would hope that they get this finalised and get it done. But listen, I do think, I was saying to Jack earlier, I mean, and listen, maybe it's just a sign of where Rangers are as a club at the moment. But and maybe I'm being a bit too kind of sentimental when you think to where Rangers have been and the managers they've had, but when you think that the remaining two candidates, to be the manager of Glasgow Rangers, are a 36-year-old German coach who up until now has only had one job at the lower end of the English Championship, and an Australian coach who is managing a team in China. I mean, I just think for those to be your final two candidates, I think it's a real indication as to where Rangers are at the minute, and it's also an indication of whoever does get the job, what a task they've got in their hands to try and get Rangers back to being a force again.
I think in that, Scott, that they may have won a watch with Kevin Muscat because of his links, because he's a hungry, aspiring manager that wants to get another crack at Europe, because he was formerly a Rangers player. I think there's a whole load of reasons there that perhaps if it wasn't for all that background, perhaps he wouldn't be interested in it either. But this is a guy that's clearly kind of been coveting this position for a period now. He got very close to it 2 years ago in the interview process. And I think Rangers are fortunate that they've got a guy that is as driven. He's got a track record of winning, which is the key to being a successful Rangers manager. And he's clearly, really desperately wants the job. And I think Rangers have got quite fortunate there, because if there wasn't that background, then would they be able to go to the top club in the Chinese Super League and say, we'll take your manager off you?
Well, first of all, I don't think if Kevin Muscat had that season with Rangers, that treble-winning season, 2003, I don't know if
it wouldn't be. It
wouldn't be a job. I don't think. And also, where I agree with you, Jack, where I think Rangers are pretty fortunate, is that he's now been linked with the job, 2 or 3 times, and has been spoken about previously.
Yeah, and overlooked.
Aye, and a lot of guys might have just said, "Well, that's it. No, I'm not going through that again. No dealing with them again." But I think Keith's right. He is hungry. He does want the job. He's been there, so he knows the side of the club. We all know how close he is to Craig Moore, who has still got links to Rangers and still spends a lot of time in Glasgow, knows the environment, knows the landscape, so he can fill him in. We know he's got links, obviously, to Ange Postecoglou. He worked under him. No doubt I spoke to him at some point about his time at Celtic. So I think they're fortunate that he's still pretty much available, and he's still in the running, because he's been here 2 or 3 times before and it hasn't happened for him. And I agree with Keith, as much as I'm saying I think it's an indictment of where Rangers are, that this is the 2 guys they're left with. I think if you'd have said right at the start of the process, or asked most Rangers fans what they were looking for in the next manager, the type of guy they were looking for, the type of manager, I think if you rhymed off at 4 or 5 names, Muscat would have been in it, along with Derek McInnes, Steven Gerrard, even Barry Ferguson, maybe a Sean Dyche, that type of character, that type of manager. So I think they're fortunate that he's still open to it. He's still available if they can obviously sort out his exit for China. And look, it might turn out to be a great appointment. Who knows?
The Rangers fans are having their say on it, guys. Let me run through a few of these comments for you. Excuse me. Matt Weir says, if they cannot get Muscat over the line, club needs to take a breather, put an interim in, reset and have a proper plan under a competent CEO and director of football who can work in tandem with the new manager. Gravy says, I'm starting to think the 49ers are interviewing all these people, not just for Rangers, but for potential Leeds managers. Tom says, Muscat will need a work permit, and that takes 2 weeks, plus getting out the China contract and pay compensation will take time. John says, Muscat has mainly walked in to teams already winning, apart from Belgium. How will he get on at the eternal bin fire at Rangers? And there's Rangers fans that just want this over with. I mean, Graham, I'm so fed up with this fiasco, Rangers. Get it done. And Brian says, I'd be happy with Muscat, but what do I know? I've had enough of these manager turnovers. I just want to get back to watching football for a change. Hopefully the team can improve. I mean, it is getting a bit... I mean, it's mad that it's November... What is it? Sorry, October 15th. They still don't have a manager.
By the way, October 15th, 2023, the very day that Philippe Clement was pipping Kevin Muscat at the post in terms of becoming the Rangers manager. And what I would say is that in the 2 years since, Rangers have been on a downwards trajectory, and Kevin Muscat was already in a good place, but his credentials have gone in completely the opposite direction. You know, and I get it. It's only, you know, the Chinese Super League. We're only the SPFL.
Aye, that's fair.
And the bottom line is that he's, you know, on the brink of securing a second successive title. I think Rangers are lucky that Kevin Muscat is determined, hungry, and making himself available for this. And I think they'd be making a major mistake if they didn't manage to do whatever's required now to get this deal done. Because I think, you know, Scott's rhymed off a few names of guys down south, and I think the conversation appears to have been like, mobile phone goes, "Hi, who's that? Kevin Thelwell, see you later." Phone down. Because these guys have been rushing all over themselves to put distance between themselves and Rangers and themselves and Kevin Thelwell. They don't appear to have entered into any sort of serious discussions about it. Obviously, Steven Gerrard did. But guys like Dyche and Potter and O'Neill, you know, they've received a phone call and said, you know, drop my number, and that's the state of affairs.
It's funny. Sorry, Scott, to jump in, but it's funny you bring up Thelwell, Keith, because their colleague Scott Burns has conducted an interview which is on Record Sport Online now. If you want to watch
this is interesting, isn't it?
It's with Billy Davies, who I think gave Kevin Thelwell his first job in football. And in fact, I'll just let Billy Davies speak for himself. I think we can hear a little clip from it now.
I've got to say, Scott, I'm very surprised. I never ever took him as a sporting director. He's quite a soft lad, quite quiet in the sense of, I always felt he was perfectly suited in the academy. He was a great administrator. When he went onto the grass, he was also very, very good on the coaching side, obviously with his experience at the Welsh FA. But he never took me as a sporting director. He was certainly quite a quiet lad in the sense of you wouldn't say that he had the strongest of character. So certainly in the academy, he was perfectly suited for that role. But he left Wolves and then got that opportunity as the sporting director, and then he's been on to do that. But I've got to say, Scott, it does surprise me, particularly with the personality and character that he's got. Then I always felt he was probably perfectly suited, working with kids, working with parents, working with academy staff members, and organising all that department.
Seen his time, obviously, before Everton. Were you still in contact, or did you have any contact with Kevin?
Well, I've got to say that I've not. I met him once or twice in England after we both left Derby County, but I was hoping to get a call just to go for a coffee when he came to Glasgow. I was hoping that he would remember who gave him his start, who brought him into the wide world of football, professional football. Sadly, that call's not come in. I was looking forward to having a chat with him, chatting about the good old days. But again, Scott, football moves fast. It moves quick. I'm just disappointed. I did expect to hear from him. Again, just to go for a coffee, just to have a chat, just to talk about the good old days and the successes that we had and the development that we went through, coming through, as I said, the Welsh FA, into Preston North End, 2 playoffs, into Derby County. My very first appointment at Derby was Kevin Thelwell, getting to that wonderful promotion and then getting into the Premier League. And then, of course, moving on from there. So, a bit disappointed that he's not picked up the phone and at least took me for a lunch.
Billy Davies there, he doesn't sound bitter at all.
You know what that was in the trade? A good old-fashioned filleting. Wow.
It's an I just thought I played it because I thought it's just an interesting insight. This is a guy that's calling the shots at Rangers in many ways. I know obviously Andrew Cavan is, but
where is this? Where is that interview available? So if anybody wants to, but obviously stay and watch the rest of this. But
don't go anywhere. But it's on Record Sport Online now.
Right.
You can find it on our website and obviously on our social media channels as well. The entire interview, which is on Daily Record's YouTube channel too, it's 40 minutes long. So if you want to have a listen to that,
smoke coming off it by the end of it.
It's definitely there. But I mean, look, I thought it was an interesting insight into his kind of personality and skill set, Scott. I mean, obviously Billy doesn't sound like he thinks he'd be a great sporting director.
He's certainly up against it, Kevin Thelwell. If he didn't have enough problems, he's now get me Billy.
That's the understatement of the season.
Absolutely slaughtered him. If he's not getting up to him. Look, Billy Davies did give him his first opportunity, to be fair. I think Kevin Thelwell had been a player and a coach, but I think Billy, I spoke to a few people when Thelwell came in. No, it was Billy that gave him his big break. So, he's obviously a wee bit disappointed that Kevin's no got in touch. And listen, maybe he should have, because given some of the players that Kevin Thelwell signed so far, and there's obviously big question marks over recruitment, and at the very least Billy could have done was maybe talk to him about what's required to play at Rangers and what's required to to do well at that club in terms of this environment and all that. But clearly they've no spoke. So I wonder if wee Billy's phone will be ringing tonight. Kevin will be on the blower. They might do it for lunch tomorrow.
Aye,
He might get involved in the process at the 11th hour, Scott.
Aye, you might. Nice. I don't think you'd leave Morton.
It's a very good point, eh? The one thing I want, before we move on from Rangers, guys, I want to... The point you made, Scott, about the two candidates that Rangers are left with, and I think you're right, Keith, when you say, look, people looking down the nose maybe at the Chinese Super League. I mean, we're the SPFL. I mean, you can't really do that. But what I would say is, I agree with you, Scott. I'm shocked that, like, this is Rangers. Still, I would put forward there's only 3 or 4 clubs in England bigger than Celtic and Rangers. This is one of the biggest jobs in the UK.
Well, that tells you everything, as I say, about where Rangers are at the minute. And you know the other thing, Daniel, we were talking about Kevin Muscat maybe coming in, and it might take 3 or 4 weeks, and we're talking about potentially Stevie Smith in the dugout on Saturday, maybe Neil McCann. If that deal gets done. But I mean, I'd be interested to know what Keith thinks on this and yourself. But I mean, where does this leave Rangers in terms of trying to get up the table and still try to compete for a title? I mean, I know they're way behind in the league, but it's almost like giving up on the title this season. It seems like this season, look, we've had to sack a manager. It's going to take us a while to get a new guy in. The guy we want's turned us down initially. The next guy we want, we can't get him for another month, so we need to put a guy in the dugout for 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, this is a club that a year ago, it felt like they surrendered a title because the stadium wasn't fit to host games in, and they had to, 18 months ago, they had to go and play games at Hampden. Here we are 18 months later, and it feels as if yet another season has just fell by the wayside due to bad decisions. I mean, I honestly, I don't know when Rangers get serious again about going and competing for titles and for cups, because it feels like they're drifting away from that. I mean, I go back to Philippe Clement when they had the stadium fiasco and he was having to make cuts to the budget and all that. That famous quote about you'll really see the best of us come October, November, and effectively writing off a season, because by October, November, Celtic are miles clear in the league and it's gone. Well, here we are again this season, and it's like, what are they, 11 points behind Hearts, 9 behind Celtic, no manager in place, the youth coach essentially taking the game against Dundee United on Saturday. I don't know. I don't know when. I don't hear enough people at Rangers talking about competing again and winning titles and being the number 1 club in Scotland again. And honestly, that kind of thing, if you're a fan, you'd be seriously worried about. Seriously worried. Especially, by the way, I know Jacko spoke about this a lot, especially with what Hearts are doing at the minute.
Yeah.
With Tony Bloom's back and then Derek McInnes in there. Honestly, I mean, if Rangers don't get their act together quick, the season's already been a disaster to start with, but it could actually get a lot worse before it gets better.
What's your view, Scott, on the fact that, as far as we can establish, there has been absolutely no attempt even to find out, even just to throw out the question there to Derek McInnes?
I'm just staggered, honestly, absolutely staggered. I mean, I actually checked again the day, just because I still can't quite get my head around why Rangers wouldn't at least make a call, to Derek McInnes or his representative.
Back channeling or something.
Just find out.
Even if you don't, even if you're the sporting director or the chairman, and you maybe don't think he's your number one candidate, or you've maybe got doubts, I just don't know how a club like Rangers, when they look at the Premiership table and see the team that's sitting top, and it's a Scottish manager who's part of 9 in a row at Rangers, has proven himself to be a top manager in Scotland. He knows the league inside out. He knows Rangers inside out. We're led to believe that if you had to pay any compensation, that fee would be in and around 500,000, which isn't kind of too high. I wouldn't have thought for Rangers to go and pay if they really wanted them. I just don't know. I feel as if people aren't doing their jobs properly by not at least making that call. I mean, somebody said to me the other day, saying, but it'd be really hard to get him out. And I mean, what happens if they go for him and then Derek McInnes doesn't like what he hears and he pulls out, and that's another rejection? And me or Keith could find it within the hour.
One phone call
on the QT whether Derek McInnes is interested in the Rangers job or not. You don't need to make a public announcement about it. You can go and find out before you make the approach. But how a call's not been made to Derek McInnes, I don't get it. I mean,
what do you think that's down to, Scott? That they've overlooked what's on their own doorstep?
Honestly, I think it's down to a bit of arrogance, a bit of snobbery about Scottish football. We've spoken here a lot about Rangers signing a players, the kind of recruitment policy going down to England, Championship, League One. Anybody in the Premier League, anybody that's played a game in the Premier League must be absolutely going to rip it up, the Scottish Premiership at Rangers. It's that kind of attitude.
The worst performing manager in the history of the English Premier League. Yep, bring him in.
Exactly. And the reluctance to sign Scottish players. I think this has been going on for years, by the way. This isn't just that.
Yeah.
So Martin, Kevin Thelwell, this has been going on for years. So there's been a reluctance from Rangers. And I think my only theory on it is that this runs deep. And I know there's been different regimes, but this to me goes back to 2012 when the club went down to the 3rd division and they felt as if every other club was ganging up on them. It's almost like we will never give money to any other Scottish club again for a player, because the reluctance to go and sign the best Scottish players compared to years ago under Walter Smith and Alec McLeish and people like that, when it was it was standard for Rangers to go and pluck the best Scottish players for other clubs in the league. You think about Lawrence Shanklin, you think about Lewis Ferguson, for instance. Even this summer, when you look at Josh Mulligan, Lennon Miller, people like that, who I think would have been 100% good enough to play for Rangers, a real reluctance to go and get them, to go and get the best and spend serious money. And it feels a bit like that with the managerial situation. I don't, for the life of me, don't understand why Derek McInnes wouldn't be high up your list of candidates, especially when you consider the fact that we know some of the people they've been speaking to down south, with all due respect, like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I mean, that to go and speak to somebody like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and think for 1 second that he'd be better qualified to do the Rangers job than Derek McInnes is just absolutely astonishing for me. Astonishing.
That's a good point. I think I come back to one thing on that, is that Walter Smith years ago identified Derek McInnes as a man that he felt would have all the attributes and the ideal candidate to one day become the manager of Rangers. If a guy like Walter Smith, the greatest manager that the club has ever had, certainly in the modern era, makes that kind of conclusion, reaches that conclusion about somebody, then who are the people that are in there just now to say that they know better than the club's greatest ever manager to know what might constitute a good Rangers manager? I think that's the really staggering part.
And look, just to clarify, in the comment section, Keith Steven says he's sure McInnes was approached in an unofficial capacity and he's stressed he's not interested. But as far as that's not the case, is it?
No, as far as I'm aware.
I don't believe that, Daniel.
There's a few people saying that as well. I just wanted to clear that up. And a few people as well, guys. Kyle is one of a few asking, look, is there any way Gerrard could re-enter the talks? But it doesn't look likely, does it?
No. Well, look, there's always a chance. There's always, it's a 1,000,000 to 1 shot. There's been repeated attempts over the last 2 or 3 days to suggest that the talks have been reopened, and they haven't. And what we're told from Gerrard's side and from the Rangers side, I think Scotty can testify to that, is that there is no interest to rekindle these discussions at this time. Is that right, Scott? That's certainly that's my reading.
How do you see, from a PR point of view, Jag? How do you claw that back? No, when it's been put out there, no, that Steven Gerrard has decided the timing's not. Whether you agree with that or no, I think we've all got an opinion on that. But how do you get it out there that he's walked away for the talks? It's not the right time. He's not ruling out in the future. Blah blah blah. How do you claw that back from a PR point of view to say, oh, not by the way, he's come back to the table again? I mean, as if it's not been farcical enough. I mean, that'd just be ridiculous.
Yeah. And can you imagine what the press conference would then be like when it should be all trumpets blaring and all that? It would just be a succession of, well, what's changed your mind?
Exactly.
Have they promised you more money? Was that what it was?
Why did you walk away in the first place?
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that ship has sailed, certainly for the time being. There's always next October.
When the merry-go-round starts all over again. Moving away from Rangers, guys, time's getting on. The only other managerial bit of news that I wanted to get your guys' take on, Jimmy Thelin apparently is wanted by the Swedish FA to replace Jon Dahl Tomasson, who's had an absolute nightmare spell in charge of the Swedes. They're bottom of their World Cup qualifying group. I think they've scored 1 goal in 4 games, 0 wins. Jimmy Thelin, do you think he's the man to turn them around, and would he leave Aberdeen?
The Sweden no get the Scottish results through, no? They don't get to see it.
It's a fair point.
No, I know. See, I mean, I was surprised when I heard that. I must admit. Look, we know Jimmy Tillin's got a really good reputation in Sweden. Obviously, that's why he got the Aberdeen job, because of the job he did at Elfsborg. But you're right. I mean, Jon Dahl Tomasson's had an absolute nightmare as Sweden manager. I mean, it's actually staggering to see the squad that they've got and the results they've picked up. I mean, if you actually look at the Sweden squad now, I mean, I'm not that clued up on it, but this must be up there with one of the best groups they've had in a long time. You think Isak and
Gyökeres
and Elanga and Bergvall at Spurs coming through. I mean, it's a proper squad of players they've got, and the results have been absolutely shocking. So it's no surprise to see Dahl Tomasson lose his job. I seen Graham Potter being linked with that job as well. Obviously, the job he did at Östersunds in Sweden that really kick-started his coaching career. But look, mate, I'm joking about it, but maybe it's not a big surprise that Thelwell's name has been mentioned, because he will be highly rated over there for the job he's done at Elfsborg. But I certainly don't think they'll be approaching him for his kind of recent record at Aberdeen, because it's not that long ago we were on here talking about whether he was going to keep his own job at Pittodrie. So I think he'll be concentrating on that first before he starts thinking about becoming the national manager.
He's not out of the woods yet either at Aberdeen, Keith. I'd put forward. I mean, he's only won that 1 game against Dundee before the break.
No, but what a perfectly sort of put together exit strategy that is for all parties here. Aberdeen can say, "Oh no, you're not getting him. We love this guy. Just drive up the price if they can. Make a real coin on Jimmy Thelin, when really a couple of weeks ago they were probably looking at how much it was going to cost to get rid of him. So you could actually it's two birds in one hand with this, isn't it? If Sweden comes calling, nobody could blame Jimmy Thelin for wanting to go and become his national team's manager. So he leaves without offending anybody. He leaves with his reputation intact because he's falling upwards. And Aberdeen get the chance to get a few quid in. They're doing quite well financially. There's some more cash. Go and get somebody else this time. So I think on all levels, that feels like a perfect solution, doesn't it? And if I was Aberdeen, as I said to you, when the Swedish FA get on the phone, you say, I'm not interested, not entertaining this, and then put the phone down and then hope, please phone back. And start a negotiation. I think that is it's almost dropped out of the sky, that one, and I think is a really good solution for everybody.
Watch this space, I guess, guys. Is there anything else that we should touch upon before we wrap up Wednesday's Hotline Live? I don't think there is, really, is there?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
There you go. Well, listen, thank you very much for all the comments that have come in. Amazing as usual. We really appreciate it. The heartbeat of the show, if I do say so. Sorry. So I was saying that, I thought that sounds so cheesy.
Condescending. Yeah, I thought that.
Sorry, guys. Thanks for the comments. Scott, it's great having you back on.
Ending to this episode.
Cheers, Daniel.
If I'm back tomorrow, I've done well. Keith, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, cheers, Dan. Go away and speak condescendingly to somebody else now.
Sorry about that again. Back at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Hope you can join us then. Cheers.